Normality is a paved road. It's comfortable to walk, but no flowers grow in it. I was an artistic genius who once spoke these words. I was born March 30th, 1853, in the Netherlands, to a loving mother and father. I was the eldest of 6 children who loved to explore serene nature together and tell stories. Starting when I was 11, my parents sent me to a couple different boarding schools. I did not enjoy it there, for I missed my brother Theo, who was also my best friend. I was searching for my purpose. I was 16 when I earned the job as an art dealer in the grandiose city of The Hague, in the Netherlands. I adored the bright pieces of art. I was promoted and moved to the art gallery's London location in 1873, when Theo began to send me letters. Depressingly, I grew bored of London and was moved to Paris in 1875. At this location, I was insolent and argued with my customers. I was fired and sent away. Looking for a new occupation, I tried to be a teacher. When even that didn't work out, I decided I wanted to be a pastor like my father, but was fired due to my messy appearance. Hopeless, I sent a letter to Theo asking for advice, and he suggested I become an artist. Following his guidance, I began training to become a professional painter. As I entered the art world, relationships became difficult. I studied many forms of art and enrolled in an art academy. My first creations were dark and unhappy, and many portrayed homeless people. One day, I saw some bright and exciting Japanese artwork with sharp lines and shapes. I was thoroughly intrigued. So after that, my paintings were livelier and more joyous. One time, things got a little heated after an argument with my roommate, so I frantically cut part of my ear off. After that horrible event, I was admitted to a mental hospital and painted a myriad of art, one of which was the astonishing Starry Night. Tragically, I died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound not long after. I was only 37 years old. Destroyed by grief, Theo passed away a year later. Theo's widow, Jo, was left with all of my unsold artwork. She chose to share my work with others. After Jo's death, her son, who was named after me, founded a museum for my paintings in 1973 in Amsterdam. As a proficient painter struggling with my mental health, I continued making priceless pieces of art, but experienced hardships and my life ended tragically. The most prominent aspect of my life was my passion and endless contributions to the world of art. Without the support of my brother and sister-in-law, I would be a crazy, red-headed madman. Instead, I am now the definition of a creative genius and a prolific painter. Who am I? I am Vincent van Gogh.
Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. 4 little notes. 4. And I am forever known by them throughout all history. I am a musical genius. You, sir. You, madam. Do you play an instrument? No? Figures. If you did play an instrument, it would be no match for my greatness. I accomplished a great deal in my life at a very young age. My father, who was a terrible drunk that abused me, had a goal for me, to become the next Mozart. So at the age of 7, I had my first performance. I was pushed so hard that I eventually did train with Mozart and Haydn, 2 of the best composers of all time. I began to write my own music and wrote wonderful symphonies. I wrote famous Symphony number 5, which I hummed for you at the beginning, Moonlight Sonata number 14, and Sonata number 25. I also wrote Symphony number 9, which had a section, Ode to Joy, that everyone plays at their wedding. Speaking of weddings, I was never married, and I don't understand why. Maybe it was because I was described by many as being rough around the edges, but I never saw that about myself. Finally, the most amazing fact about my life is that I am deaf. I lost my hearing in my late 20s, which is a rather unfortunate illness to have as a music composer. The bonus of it all was that I never had to hear others' negative opinions about my music. Even though I lost my ability to hear, my mind remembered all of the notes, and I used vibrations from my piano to write my greatest works from memory. Through the hardships I faced, I knew the music in my mind needed to be shared with the world. Perseverance through disability and hardship are what mark me as a role model even today. I am famously quoted saying, "There are and always will be thousands of princes, but there is only one." Who am I? I am Beethoven.
I am remembered as one of the last great figures of the ancient world. Because few records survived the Dark Ages, my story comes from myths and legends. In these tales, I play an important role, a political pawn, a powerful figure in a world ruled by men. I was born in the late 400s. When I was young, my father arranged for me to marry a king, which created a strong alliance between our kingdoms. I respected my husband deeply, but I wasn't a true love story. I quietly accepted my role as queen. My future was decided for me. My hand in marriage was not the only prize. My father also gave him a very famous piece of furniture. This famous piece of furniture is when knights gathered around to say their pledge about protecting others and to serve their king. While my husband was away fighting, I was either left with another king or I was kidnapped by this king. Depends on which story told. I was saved by one of our knights. I fell in love with him, but it caused fighting and betrayal. This decision cost a lot of After this, I went to live a convent life. I lived a quiet life of service and prayer. Let my story serve as a warning, like a falling domino, one decision leading to many consequences. Let my story teach that answers matter. Who am I? I am Queen Guinevere.
A fiery light, flashing intensely, came from the open vault of heaven and poured through my whole brain. Like a flame that is hot without burning, it kindled all my heart. Born with visions from heaven, I, a woman from the Middle Ages, became an educated leader who accomplished much during my time on earth with the help of God. I was born in a small town in Mainz, Germany, and starting at a very young age, when I closed my eyes, I saw dazzling bright lights from heaven. I could predict the color a calf would be before I was born when I was only 3. Because of these amazing visions, my parents sent me to study in a monastery with a holy woman named Yuda, who also had visions. I later became a nun and eventually the leader of the convent. God spoke to me and he instructed me to write down my visions, but I was afraid of what people would think of me. I got very sick until I wrote my visions down. Out of these glorious visions from God, I composed many heavenly songs and hymns, 77 in all, which are still performed to this day. I wrote many books about God, natural history, and medicine. I even invented a new language complete with its own alphabet. I was declared a saint and doctor of the Catholic Church in 2012. My death became a holiday, which is September 17th. My influence has reached people all over the world, both then and now, through my books that help people know more about God, as well as medicinal and nutritional knowledge. My music is still enjoyed today, and I am considered a celebrated composer, scientist, and saint. Who am I? I am Hildegard of Bingen.
Es voluntad divina. Oh, many apologies. This isn't Spain. It is divine will that I should be queen, and that his kingdom should extend over the earth. Allow me to explain. When I was una pequeña niña, Spain was divided into 4 kingdoms: my Castile, Aragon, filthy Granada, and the smallest, Navarre. I faced a fearful childhood as my family was fraught with fierce fights from power. Shortly after my royal birth, father tragically died, leaving me with poor, heartbroken mother. You see, I was too young to be queen, and mother was thought to be loco. My greedy half-brother hastily became king of Castile. However, he was weak and unpopular, so my home collapsed into war and havoc. I hatched a plan to save my country from its civil war. As you may know, tradition was for the king to select my husband, and many suitors desired to marry me for their own gains. But I took matters into my own hands. I secretly married Ferdinand, Prince of Aragon, without consent from the king. This was a perfect move to unite the 2 largest empires and prepare for the Lord, his domain. After my half-brother died, I became queen of 2 vast kingdoms. With Aragon and Castile unified, Ferdinand and I agreed to rule equally. Then we aimed to invade the Muslim-ruled Granada in order to unite all of Spain under Holy Catholic rule. After 10 years of grueling war, Granada finally surrendered. This victory began a new era of one Spain, and I could turn my attention to other matters. Christopher Columbus sought me out for funding his fearless voyage in search of Asia to supply a spice trade route. This was an unexpected opportunity, and I wasn't going to let it pass me by. I desired to expand Spain's access to resources, make my home wealthy, and spread the gospel through discovering new lands. The age of exploration. Talk about changing the world. Good old Chris stumbled upon your America and plenty of gold, although not many spices. My reign proved to be prosperous despite its challenges. I loved Spain and did everything in my power to mold it into the stunning, grandiose country you know today. Who am I? I am Queen Isabella of Spain.
I was born in Italy, 1452. A lot of you know me as an artist. Some as a scientist, and some as an inventor. I was very famous for painting a lot of the most famous paintings ever. And I'm very curious about the world. I watched the rivers flow and the birds fly. I invented or drove. I invented bridges and other stuff. And I'm the most famous artist for painting the Last Supper and the Mona Lisa. Sorry. Yeah, sure. Oh, who am I? Get back here. Who am I? I'm Leonardo da Vinci.
Bonjour, my dear subjects. I am nearing the end of my life, serving as a nun at an abbey in France. My life is a story filled with adventure. I've been queen of 2 countries. I've been imprisoned by my very own husband. I've had 10 children. I've played an important role in the Crusades. Let me share a little with you. 1122 was the year of my birth. My father, William, and my mother, Aenor, provided a beautiful childhood for me. My sister, Petronella, and I enjoyed playing in the beautiful palace garden full of fruit trees in the summer. We lived a life full of privilege. Unlike many girls, we were highly educated. Sadly, by the time I turned 15, both of my parents had passed away. I inherited over half of France, which made me the most desirable heiress. People saw me as strong-willed, quick-witted, and probably rather spoiled. 1137 was the year my father died, and also the year I married Louis VII. I became queen, and king of France. We had 2 daughters. We led crusades together. Sadly, because of my strong will, it led to a very problematic marriage that ended in divorce. I married my dear Henry, and we had 8 children together. Henry's father died, which made Henry and I king and queen of England. Sadly, our relationship was sinking like a stick in the mud. You see, my son and I planned to revolt against my husband, which landed me in prison for 16 years. I was locked away in the old Serum Castle. Henry died, and my son Richard, the Lionheart, became king and freed me. 1154 was the 1134 was the year I was released, and I brought peace to my land, and I went on to see 2 of my sons become king. Who am I?
I am Eleanor of Aquitaine.
I've not told half of what I saw. I was born in Venice, Italy in 1254, which was a famous city for trade. Being from a family of merchants meant my father, who traveled a lot, left the year I was born, and I did not see him until I was 15 years old. When I was 17 years old, my father and uncle were planning to return to China, and I begged to go with them. It took us 3.5 years to get to China. The journey was very difficult and dangerous. We were attacked by bands in Persia and had to cross the Gobi Desert. We walked for 1 month in the hot, scorching sun to cross it. When we finally arrived in China, I met the powerful Mongol leader Kublai Khan sitting in his throne in his summer palace. He took a liking to me and made me one of his ambassadors, so I traveled to different parts of the empire. Some people even believed I was working for the Khan as a spy. We begged him to leave many times, but the Khan refused. We finally had our chance where a Mongol princess was getting married in Persia, and we were allowed to escort her. The way back was treacherous. We were robbed of most of our treasures in Turkey. After being away for 24 years, we finally arrived home, and our family did not recognize us, so we had to prove our own identity. Our family had a feast to celebrate our return, and we brought out our dirty traveling clothes and showed them how we hid rubies, diamonds, and other jewels in the seams. At that time, Venice was at war, and I was captured in a sea battle and thrown in prison. While in prison, I met a writer, and we wrote a book about my journey to China. The book became a bestseller, inspired many explorers, such as Christopher Columbus. He even had it with him when he journeyed to America. I'm still so famous, you can even hear children calling out my names in swimming pools across this vast land. Who am I? I am Marco Polo.
I'm not afraid. I was born to do this. These are the words that once came out of the mouth of a brave young girl who helped save the history of France. That brave young girl was me. I was born a peasant on January 6, 1412, in Dormamie, La Pucelle, France. I grew up very religious and the youngest of 4 children. Instead of going to school, my days were spent tending for sheep and helping in the garden. It was there where I first had my vision from God, telling me to help save France and help Charles reclaim the throne from English rule. At age 16, I could not ignore the visions and dreams anymore. I took action. To meet Charles, it was a long journey. Because of the danger ahead, I dressed like a man to not be caught. When I finally arrived, Charles was suspicious of me and had me questioned by the priests. But eventually, he let me lead the intrepid army into battle. In 1429, the city of Orleans was enclosed by English troops. The French wanted to surrender, but with my encouragement and faith, we fought with resoluteness. I rode a horse and carried a white banner to encourage my soldiers, but I never fought with a sword. But I prayed we would have strength in the battle. We finally defeated the English and freed the city of Orleans. That led to Charles being crowned King of France. I proudly stood triumphantly beside Charles during the ceremony. Soon after, sadly, I was captured by the Burgundians and sold to the English. Charles did not even come to my aid. I was put on trial and put to death at the young age of 19. However, I remained faithful throughout my life and never wavered in my love for God. Who am I? I'm Joan of Arc.
I was the first king of Scotland, but there was a time that I felt more like a failure than an actual king. I was born on July 11th, 1274 in Turnberry Castle. There, I learned how to fight with swords and ride horses. During this time, the dreadful English were trying to control Scotland. But I wanted my country to be free and to be king of Scotland. However, John Coleman also wanted to be king of Scotland. One day, we got into an argument in self-defense. I killed him. Oh look, my sword broke while I killed him. I better put it away before somebody else kills me without a sword. But I still had to win against English forces to become king. In 1314, at the Battle of Bannockburn, we were greatly outnumbered. But because I knew the landscape, my army was able to push the English into a valley full of gross, ickly muck. There, I won the battle, and I officially became King of Scotland. I am remembered as a great warrior hero. Who am I? I'm Robert the Bruce.
I moved to Iceland as a young boy, where I was exposed to a lifestyle of fighting and even killing at an early age. It was just a way of life for my fierce people. You see, I was born in Norway in the second half of the 900s. My family had to leave Norway in a hurry when I was just a wee lad. Let's just say my dad had some anger issues and killed some people. And when you kill someone in Norway, You are declared an outlaw and have to leave the country. My people are prideful and ruthless, so much so that quarrels with friends and even family often meant one thing: violence. My people also went on raids and captured innocent villagers as slaves. We are unrivaled in our belief that pride and glory is more important than long life. I inherited some land in Iceland, but as I grew older, it became too cramped and boring. So I did what I knew best. Went on raids and captured innocent villagers and my slaves. One very ordinary day, my slaves caused a small rock slide, demolishing my neighbor's house. My neighbor was furious and killed all my slaves, but he had messed with the wrong guy. I retaliated with an attack of my own, brazenly killing my neighbor and his cousin. The townspeople were furious and charges were immediately brought against me. They declared me an outlaw and I had to leave the country for 3 years. If I didn't hurry up and get out soon, my fellow Icelanders were allowed to kill me. Luckily, I have friends and family to help me hide while I prepared to leave the country. I had my boat, my family, and some trusted warrior friends. We sailed northwest for 5 stormy days and nights, when finally we found a place where we could build a new life for ourselves. I might have been an outlaw, but I would not be stopped from adventure, pride, and exploration. Life on a new island would be difficult, but I would not be hindered. My crew and I found a place where no European had ever set foot on before. When we first reached the coast of the island, we landed in a very rocky area that would not be good for settlement. So we sailed around the coast of the island and found a very grassy area with amazing waters and a ton of reindeer. It was here that I would build my new life for myself. This place had a lot of opportunities. In reality, this island had poor living conditions because it was so cold and rocky. But it could fish like we were used to doing before, but life would be difficult with lots of hard work. I named this island Greenland in hope that the pleasant name would attract people to stay. We need more people to help develop the land. But I was persuasive. After 3 years, I went back to Iceland to persuade the Icelanders to go to Greenland. Many Icelanders were eager for a new adventure and to start a new life somewhere less crowded. More than 400 Icelanders decided to make the dangerous journey to Greenland. So they all scrambled into 25 ships, but unfortunately, only 14 made it safely to their new home. Greenland was my forever new home. Soon, I calmed down with the busyness of family and farm life and didn't kill anyone else. I had 2 sons. One was famous for adventure and exploration, just like me. I was not only defined by violence and killing, I was much more. My people's spirit of adventure and perseverance lives on in history forever. Who am I? I am Eric the Red.
I'm sure you all know who I am, for I am the daughter of Henry I and granddaughter of William the Conqueror. I was also next in line for the English throne, but my cousin stole my crown. Don't worry, this didn't stop me. We started a war, but let me start from the beginning. I was born on February 7th, 1102. My mother and father were Queen Matilda of Scotland and Henry I of England. I had one legitimate sibling, William Adine. I got married at the age of 11 to Henry I of Germany, who was a Holy Roman Emperor. At the young age of 12, he put me in charge of his Italian territories, and I was his representative and sat in judgment in court. He had died at an early age with no children or husband. My father called me back to his court in England. While I was away, my brother died at sea in the White Ship disaster. My father made me get remarried. I was wedded to Geoffrey of Anjou, who was 12 and only cared about hunting. Hunting! It's only full of blood, guts, and arrows. Deadly and treacherous arrows. But it was for a good cause. It was to strengthen the southern borders of France. When my father had died, my cousin, Stephen of Blois, took over my throne. I was bewildered, for I was still traveling in France, searching for more lands. I didn't let this happen, for I had fought back. I had even captured him once, although I released him in exchange for my loyal stepbrother. On the other hand, he had captured me twice. The first time, I escaped like an escape artist, rappelling down the outside of a castle wall during a brutal winter storm. The other was pretending to be a corpse. Eventually, the war became a stalemate, with King Stephen ruling the southeast and I in the southwest. King Stephen wanted his son to be his successor, although he had died while plundering a church. He so deserved it. Meanwhile, my oldest son, Henry II, had been ruling my English territories. This made it easier for King Stephen to agree to the Trinity of Wellingford and name my son his heir. He had died 1 year later. I was my son, King Henry's mentor, as I guided him with political advice. I am remembered today for being the first female claimant of England and winning in the end. Who am I? I am Empress Matilda.